Welcome to the Essence of Homeschooling podcast, brought to you by the umbrella school, Stotheros Academy. We empower and equip you to cultivate the authentic homeschool lifestyle where freedom and relationships rule.
I feel like social studies is a natural connection off of literature, mostly because here we go with beautiful feet again. But as a curriculum, in so much of our social studies, we're reading about it. This Charlotte Mason approach likes to call them living books. Those are the real books. They're not the textbook, because children will get engaged with the story much more than a dry textbook. The beautiful thing about the living books is they're written by people who loved the topic, which means they've invested time and energy into that topic. The textbook generally, they have some interest in history, but they may not like certain aspects of history. And so there's going to be areas that are dry. But those living books, you can find great books on any era of history.
If you're not sure where to start in teaching social studies, a good way to do that is to grab a sort of grade level history book or look online. You can find this online. Take a look at their table of contents, get an idea of what kids are learning at this age or grade, and then get books at the library that match that time period. From there, you can branch out and include map work, food from the time period, games, music, all sorts of things.
Using a timeline is fun for these grades as well. You can get a timeline book. Sunlight has one. Graphical Conversations uses one. Or you could get a couple pieces of paper, tape them together, hang them on your wall, make your own timeline. It's a really good way for students to see what's going on in the world at that time by stepping back and looking at the whole world at a certain period of time. What was going on in Europe at the same time as this thing we're studying was going on in China, what was going on in North America. Use your timeline to step back and say, okay, what else was going on in the world at this time? And then you can expand what you're teaching in history from there as well. That could include geography. It could include the government at the time, which can then translate later into teaching U.S. government and civics.
Fun that does a good overview of world history is Story of the World. There are a couple of chapters that you might want to read with discretion if you have a Bible-based worldview. But overall, Story of the World is just a broad overview of world history. It's told like a story and covers countries that I never really learned about growing up. They offered their books read on CD. It's a funny voice that they have reading it, but my kids really liked it. And then they have a really hefty activity book that includes map work. So you can listen to the audio of the book while they work on the maps or the coloring pages. They have other ideas of things that you can do. And so that is, like you were saying, Stacey, you can get that broad overview. What's happening in Africa at the same time as what's happening in China or Europe. So
A good point that history at this age, social studies, is history and geography. And so to connect the two of them when you're seeing what's happening across the world, find out where China is, where South Africa is, where the different places that are popping up in Story of the World, where those actually are and where you fit on the map in relation to those countries.
if at all possible, have maps available everywhere, big maps.
Early American history is a lot of fun, and that's a great way to run into the Constitution because that came out of our early American history. This year is an excellent year to teach civic responsibility and voting, the privilege we have in the United States to actually get to vote, and women and men and every color, everybody gets the right to vote in the United States after a certain age.
And what rights do we have as American citizens? What responsibilities do we have as American citizens? It's good things to talk about.
Do your own state history and the different civic responsibilities. Each state is so different. The needs of Colorado are very different than the needs of the East Coast. The history related to each of those states is very different as well.
This is a wonderful thing to do field trips while you're studying your state history. There's so many fun places to go no matter where you live, whether it's a living history event, a museum, a historical site, some aspect of history that you can go to bring it alive for your children. Field trips are great in these ages. Another curriculum that we liked for history, and we're still using actually, because it can be from early elementary all the way to high school, is Diana Waring history. She has 3 different history periods: ancient civilizations in the Bible, Romans, reformers, and revolutionaries, and world empires, world missions, and world wars. And it's one of these curriculums that you can tailor up or down. She has a list of books you can read, audio pieces you can listen to. There are writing reports you can do to bring in writing. There's projects you can do. It's a wonderful all-in-one social studies curriculum that really could be a unit study and can show your child how social studies can be the backbone to a lot of different subjects. She has another one called History Revealed: What in the World? We've really enjoyed learning through her curriculum.
Beautiful feat is how to use that cross-curricular with a variety of books. But My Father's World is another one that does a lot and has a variety of curriculum options with it. You can use it for social studies, literature studies, or even in some aspects, it actually is a whole package. So you can also get it that includes science and math.
Yeah, it's nice when they cover a variety of subjects, isn't it? Notgrass is a lot like that. It's Notgras, kind of funny. And it's very heavy. It's a lot of reading, but it's great information. Super good for American history.
I hear people like The Mystery of History as well. Just fun ones. So they're reading on their own are the Magic Treehouse books, because they'll take an era of history and then write a whole story about it, as if you've gone there and been in the revolution or landed on the moon or different things like that.
The little boy in the book, I think his name is Jack, takes notes all the time. And so they've taken his notes and turned them into these little research guides. So when my kids found these notes in the library, that was super exciting. Those make really good supplements to your studies as well.
The Good and the Beautiful has curriculum, and Master Books is another one.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple options for geography could be Geography from A to Z by Jack Knowlton, and Galloping the Globe that we mentioned in the early elementary podcast. That could also work for 3rd through 6th grade.
Yes, like you were saying earlier, I think when we first started out, Michelle, it can really connect with reading as well. Say you're reading Number of the Stars. Where did that take place? Look on the map, find out where that is. So you always keep in mind to connect the dots.
It's a great way to learn about other countries and cultures and understand what kind of things they have faced throughout history as well.
Yes.
So transitioning to science, one of the big things about science at this age is that kids are naturally curious. They always want to know how the world works. So keep in mind that the goal of science at this age is not early specialization and choosing a major in college. It's just to open their eyes to the beauty and complexity of the natural world around them and how things work.
And there's a book out there that's called The Way Things Work.
Reading books like that and seeing how things work around them encourages scientific thinking. They can ask and answer questions and read stories that reinforce the questions and the answers that they have found.
Which shows how much the big question, why, comes up all the time. This is what science did. Why does it work that way? A scientist would dig in to find out why it did work that way. So let your kids ask lots of questions about it and then search for answers as best you can.
Have them come up with the hypothesis and use the scientific method to figure out what.
Mhm. It all fosters that curiosity and wonder. And it also encourages hard work and careful work, right? Because there's ways you do go about learning certain things, thinking about building a model of the solar system or a volcano or cars or anything, even of body parts. There is fine motor and gross motor skills that also go into those.
You could give them a project around the house. You can have them use a scientific method to come up with a solution. One example would be if you have a patch of grass in your yard that won't grow. You assign them to figure out why, and they can use the scientific method, looking at rain, looking at sun, looking at the soil. Have them go back to what they learned in elementary school, the basics of what do plants need to grow. And that's a way that they can have a natural curiosity, a project, and they're also contributing to the family. And you can encourage multiple aspects of learning and joy and curiosity in one project like that.
You can even take that and turn it into your own mini science fair with another family or two and plan ahead, teach them how to make a hypothesis, use a scientific process, and then present on a special day what their projects are. It gives them some public speaking practice as well.
Don't forget, nature is a beautiful teacher as well. Taking nature walks, nature journaling, looking at bugs, the leaves, the weathers, biomes, and ecosystems. Those are great science projects and places for wonder for kids, especially animals. Find out where each of the animals live and why does a snow leopard need to be in the mountains and not in the desert?
Of course, a fun one is to bake, right? Put your kid in charge of measurements and conversions and recipes. If you're having a party, you tell your child to triple the recipe or 1.5. And you can always talk about the physical and chemical reactions that are happening in the recipes. Those are easy learning projects with your student that can focus on relationship at the same time as you're learning. Don't forget that science in these ages and grades is still background knowledge and skills that are laying a foundation. Your goal is to cover important ideas in a coherent and orderly way, not to teach them everything about science. You don't want to kill their joy and their enthusiasm.
So what kind of curriculums have you all enjoyed for science?
The answer to everything today seems to be beautiful feet. Okay. A couple other Charlotte Mason style ideas are Sabbath-made science and no sweat nature study. A traditional approach curriculum would be a Becca. That traditional meaning textbook, workbook.
We enjoyed a part of the curriculum called God's Design for certain things. So God's Design for life, God's Design for the physical world. The one that we used was God's Design for chemistry and ecology. And it was being published through Master Books. What I liked about it was that each set came with 3 or 4 smaller workbook type textbooks, and they were very colorful. They covered a lot of concepts, but in small bites. I'm a big fan of teaching in small bites. They included activities and experiments, and some of it was included in a CD that you would print out. And also, it worked really well for multiple ages, multiple grades. So it was color coded. Blue might be for younger kids, green might be for a little bit older kids, and then the red was if you have quite an older child that's participating as well. So it's cross grade like that. But we enjoyed that. And it was a good foundation for the science that they would step into later. And I know that Apologia gets mixed reviews. We've used it off and on over the years, and parts of it I like, parts of it I don't. It's very heavy in reading, so you have to figure out what you're going to do with that. If you have good readers, that's fine. Some of their curriculum has audio versions, so you can listen to it. I don't think it all does at this point, but some of it does. And some of it has notebook journaling kinds of things, some for younger grades, some that's better for older grades.
Welcome to Stotheros Academy. We are an umbrella school that fulfills legal reporting requirements for homeschoolers in Colorado. But all of our services like transcripts, diplomas, IDs, and coaching are available no matter where you live. Don't forget to check out our store for homeschool essentials like attendance logs, planners, report cards, and DIY high school transcripts. Whether you need help with paperwork, planning, support, or guidance on your homeschool journey, Stotheros Academy is here to support you. Visit theumbrellaschool.com to learn more.
So it just depends on what your kids are interested in. Stacy, I think you mentioned one about birds that you may not necessarily have loved. I think we did that same one, but our kids had fun with it because they liked doing the paper airplane activity with their friends. And so it just depends on where your interest lies. But they have some good options.
And I think Gather Round has a bird unit too. But they have some science and nature study kind of things, and for various age levels. So for a large family, and you can get it for different age levels. So they each have their own workbook they're working through. And then, of course, I love books. And so the Magic School Bus books are such a fun way for kids to play with science concepts and investigate the weather systems or the inside the digestive, things that you can't necessarily do except through a storybook.
Yeah, those are lots of fun.
Who doesn't love Miss Frizzle?
Get messy.
The classical method and science avoids early specialization, but also avoids disordered or purposeless generalization. And so one of the science curriculums that has come out more recently is Novare Science. And they focus on core principles of wonder, integration, and then mastery.
Awesome. Y'all, I feel like I should go back and homeschool my kids all over again.
So many good things out there now.
Such a different time, but some things that are timeless. Books, right? But all these curriculums that do focus on the variety of ways that individuals learn, whether it's through story, hands-on, or listening. Those are the main four subjects of school, but there's others, like music. What have you done for music?
At this age, just expose them to music. Play music in the car, play music in the house, play classical music, play music you like, teach them about composers, summertime concerts in the park, go to the orchestra, anything that you can do to expose them to music. Once again, Beautiful Feet has a music that we did. I did with my kids and we loved it. And we also brought in things like Beethoven Lives Upstairs from classical kids, learning the instruments of the orchestra sings, the orchestra rocks, that whole series. When they were younger, the local Philharmonic had orchestra for kids, and they were free or very cheap concerts to offer during the day. And we got to see so many great performances.
Even some colleges have performances you can attend.
Your kids take music lessons?
Yes, in my family, one child chose piano and eventually moved to drums, and the other child chose violin.
we were a part of a co-op that would have choir or handbells.
Whoa.
And then we had one get into guitar or violin.
We had guitar, keyboarding, and drums as well. Drums, that was a fun one. Well, we didn't do as much of that as I wish we would have. There's only so many hours in the day and you have to make choices, but it's good to have at least some exposure to actually playing something yourself.
I would say our family was more of a PE type of family. The idea that movement is life and playing outside, running races, frisbee, things we could do just as a family, but also team sports, or they tried karate. I had one son who got into fencing because that was a great one as well.
Most homeschoolers join team sports at maybe a homeschool organization or a local public or private school. But even if you can't, don't forget there's many non-team sport ideas, as Michelle was saying, karate, walking and hiking, weightlifting, archery, depending on where you live, mountain biking, golf, tennis. There's even things like yoga, Pilates, anything that teaches your child gross motor skills, fine motor skills, jump roping. Any of those things can teach your child that movement is life, as Michelle said.
Well, I've even had some families that I've worked with that their kids are doing homeschooling because of sports. In fact, my daughter-in-law was into archery. She was actually on her way to the Tokyo Olympics. She did really well. And then 2020 happened and she ended up with a shoulder injury. But she was definitely, that was part of the benefit of homeschooling, was that she could really pour herself into her sport. Our own kids did Taekwondo. They did their black belts through that. So good confidence boosters there. It's gross motor and fine motor skills as well. My sister-in-law is a PE teacher. We were talking one day, what do you do on a rainy day? How do you get your heart rate up in the classroom without causing chaos? One thing she did was cup stacking. Do you guys remember when that was popular? With the cup stacking, they're working on precision. They're working on, again, those fine motor skills, setting the cups down carefully, doing things in sequence and remembering that sequence. So there are different things that you don't necessarily think of as PE that are. Sometimes you can think outside the box there.
At this age, like with everything else we've said, it's exposure. Expose them to a wide variety of ways that they can use their bodies, that are healthy ways to stay in motion, that are stretching them a little bit, challenging them. While team sports are great and teach so many great character skills, we can't always win because that's life. We don't always win. There's lots of life lessons in team sports and individual sports. And so PE is a fabulous extracurricular activity, but also one that's just for health of every child. They need the movement. They need to go out and ride their bike and play with friends outside.
Right? The socialization aspect we haven't even talked about.
If we didn't even mention that, for any of these, all the subjects can be done in co-op settings, socialized settings with other people, learning from others, and having those conversations is excellent for the skills you need growing up. What other type of life skills could we mention?
We talked about cooking and baking, and I think that also relates to eating healthy, whatever that looks like for your family. Good personal hygiene is important to teach. Believe it or not, that's a school type of skill. Learning how to brush your teeth properly, things like that. Take a bath. Doing your own laundry, cleaning around the house, doing yard work, whether it's mowing or edging or gardening or weeding. And learning how to make a budget and save or spend properly. We had give, save, and spend categories for our kids. We gave them a small allowance and taught them how to budget. So whatever that looks like for your family. What else did you guys do?
We did cotillion about 3 times through the years. Cotillion is a program that focuses on manners, dinner skills, dancing, and public speaking. I had one child who loved it and one child who did not. But I think it's a great program. It's something that was outside their comfort zone and was something that they had never done before. It was the first time I had to buy my 8-year-old a suit. It's one of the many ways to teach manners, dancing, public speaking, those sorts of things. Another thing we did as a family was take family ballroom dancing lessons or couple lessons. It was so fun to expose them to things that they weren't getting at the regular PE class. So it combined socialization, family time, learning how to waltz and foxtrot.
There's a lot of fun. We would include our kids when he was fixing the car. So life skills of even at the young age, so that they're not worried that they're going to hurt something on the car, but noticing, oh, is the tire going flat? We have to pump it up. They would do that with their bicycles. These skills of taking care of the things you need for transportation, housing, clothing, anything. Those are life skills of taking care of what you own.
Taking care of pets.
Mm-hmm.
Or younger children in the family.
Mm-hmm.
Or older members of the family helping take care of grandparents or elderly neighbors, perhaps.
Considering other people. And noticing when someone might need help. And understanding that even though you're 4th grade, you can do something about it because you know how to bake cookies now.
Or you can go shovel your neighbor's driveway. You know it's snow, and you know that the neighbor struggles to do it. So that's a character development task. Sibling relationships is also a great place to develop character.
Yes.
Learning how to navigate conflict.
Learning how to put others' needs before your own.
Learning how to share.
Delayed gratification.
But isn't it so important, especially in homeschooling, is we do delay our gratification because we're concentrating on the things that we want to learn, but in those small bite-sized chunks so that we're ready for the bigger opportunities that come down the road.
Another thing that's inherent in homeschooling is learning how to go against the common opinion, the common way of doing things. And I think that's a skill that kids can translate into a lot of ways, standing up against peer pressure when they get older. It can be a biblical aspect of sharing your faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's also art and drama. And those can often be done in group settings as well, especially drama. It's hard to do a whole play in a monologue. You can do it as a family. You can join a drama club. You can go to live theater, go to local events. The colleges sometimes have them. I know when we lived in the DC area, there were plays always going on. So there are lots of ways to get involved with that. Whether it's as someone going to view it and appreciate the gifts of other people or practicing your own hand at drama.
Or even the back part of it, building the sets and the scenery, working on the lighting or the sound, things like that.
Right.
That's also another place where they can practice being on a team. Because drama is, like you said, not generally a one-man play. Shakespeare in the park during the summertime was always a fun thing to take the kids to.
So much
How
fun.
about you do Shakespeare, right?
Well, that's where Charles Lamb's book of Shakespeare, I forget the title of it, but it's by Charles Lamb and his sister. And it's just the play in a story form with some dialogue and some of the good stuff still in it and some of the great vocabulary, but in a way that you can understand, oh, this is what the story is about. That Midsummer Night Dream that was really weird to me, that now I understand because I have it in this small story that makes it fit. And then I can go off and read the whole play and understand the basics of it.
The town where I used to live has a Globe Theater, and they would have traveling Shakespeare troops. So generally, 6 months out of the year, you could go see Shakespeare plays at a replica of the Globe. It was pretty cool.
You brought up, Kim, about even with the drama being involved with making the set, right? That's the art aspect, right? And there's ways to bring art into every subject, even if it's just painting, drawing, anything like that. Your sketchbooks are great. But you can also go visit the museums. You can get to know the lives of various artists, or as you go to a museum and you like a certain artist's work, go home and study that work. And then maybe even try the medium that they used, acrylic, watercolor, whatever it is. The various mediums are a great way to enjoy art.
Create your own scavenger hunt, or sometimes the museums have scavenger hunts for kids. Try and find certain paintings or certain pieces of certain sculptures and different activities that go along with that. Denver Art Museum in particular has some good programs.
That made me think of even the national parks and the state parks have great programs as well for kids. The Young Explorers, the
Junior Rangers.
yes, that was it. The Junior Rangers, use those because they're excellent learning opportunities. And then it's fun because then they can earn the badge as well. So do look for all those museums that do try to draw, nature centers, museums, anything that draw kids into a learning aspect to expose them to the wonder and beauty around them. These are great for the elementary school years.
If you're a military family, there's a great program from Memorial Day to Labor Day. A lot of museums across the country will let you in for free. We would always look at the list of the museums for that year. And if we were going on vacation, try to add in a museum to do something different, to explore all the museums around where you live for free between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So we've got to do quite a few things like the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum in San Jose, Denver Art Museum. We've done museums on vacation in Utah and Texas. So if you're a military family, that's a great resource to check out.
Wow.
As we've discussed, for 3rd through 6th grade, remember that you're trying to inspire your kids' curiosity. You're laying a foundation for their future studies. Be careful about adding too many wonderful things, classes, co-ops, outings, curriculum that will overwhelm you and your kids. Just because they're good and wonderful does not mean they're the best for your family. And just because one of these ideas works for us doesn't mean that it'll work for you and your family. Make sure you take our ideas, take other ideas, do your research, and find out what works best for your child, for your family. Tailor the curriculum. Change the curriculum if you need to. Explore, learn. Remember to have fun. Inspire your kids to make connections between the subjects and to think deeply about the subjects, not to just check off, we did history today, we did science today, we got a karate class in, done. Make connections between that science and that history, between the classical music they're listening to. What time period was that? What was going on in the world during that time? Use their logical thinking skills and remember to play. Kids at this age still need to play. They're big, but they're not that big. Let them play with them. Let them play with their friends. Let them play as they learn. Play and read. Don't try to do too much and lose your focus. Remember, the essence of homeschooling is the lifestyle and the relationship that you're building with your children.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and found it insightful. Be sure to check out today's show notes for all applicable links and additional resources. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Your support helps us continue to bring you great content. Until next time, happy homeschooling.